What up, Cucks? It's your boy, The Hater. So The Hater actually was watching TNA Slammiversary because he heard it was good from one of you guys. So I got the replay up in this piece. And then while I'm watching it, I'm on my phone, like dicking around between matches. And I realized that Cobra Kai season 6 or whatever, the first part of season 6, is out. So I immediately paused TNA and I started watching Cobra Kai because it's obviously 100 times better. But I did get through the first few matches, and I'm going to eventually finish it and probably do a review of it, hopefully soon, right? But there's one thing that I wanted to point out, and that's this, right? I watched, I think, the first 3 or 4 matches, I don't remember, but one of them was the tag team titles match, right? We had fucking Brian Myers or whatever, like fucking Kurt Hawkins, whatever his name is. I think it's Brian Myers or Brent Myers or something. We have Kurt Hawkins and Eddie Edwards, which, by the way, Eddie Edwards, that's not his real name. Like, it can't be. Nobody would name their son Edward Edwards, right? But the fact that this guy isn't named that and chose this as his name is even worse. You know what I'm saying? I gotta Google it to see if it's true. Eddie Edwards. It can't be his name, his actual name. Eddie Edwards, wrestler. Let's see. Wrestler. Eddie Edwards, American professional wrestler. His name is Eric Mayer. Or Maher, whatever, depends on how he pronounces it. So now he's actually Eddie Edwards. Why could he be Eric Edwards? Anyways, Eddie Edwards is still around, and he's in a tag team now. And they're wrestling these two guys called Chris Bay and Ace Austin, right? Who, like, they've been around TNA for a minute. So I've seen them before, but I haven't seen them wrestle that much. But I was really impressed by both Ace Austin and Chris Bay, right? Specifically, Chris Bay. I was really impressed by him. This kid's very athletic, and it made me think. It got me thinking for a second. And he's like cut, you know what I mean? He's not like an enormous man like Brian Myers was like bigger than all these guys, right? Brian Myers, who's like a little guy in WWE, was like bigger than all the other 3 guys. But I will say this, right? It's like when you see a certain archetypal wrestler, and that's why it's good because Chris Bay is black and the other guy, Ace Austin, is white. So we got a little bit of both. So we can't bring race into it for no reason, right? Because people will be like, oh, Cedric Alexander is held back because he's black. No, he's not. He's held back because he sucks, right? Because you can look at Cedric Alexander and you can easily compare him to Chris Bay or Ace Austin, right? He's the same thing, right? There's nothing that these guys were both very athletic, and so is Cedric Alexander. And I actually like Cedric Alexander. But the point is, there's so much interchangeability between these vanilla midget wrestlers that it's no surprise at all that none of them ever get over. So when people say things like, oh, WWE, like, you're gonna start hearing this in the next few months, because remember when all of you, not my subscribers, but the majority of wrestling fans thought that Montez Ford was gonna get this world title push, and I said to everybody, just like I'm saying right now about Trick Williams, and just like I said about Carmelo, I've been right in this channel about virtually everything, right? I don't think there's one thing I've been wrong about. But I told everybody, I'm like, don't get excited about Montez Ford getting a push. This is never gonna happen, right? Because unlike the majority of wrestling fans, I have the capacity to correctly realize if someone does or doesn't have talent. And when you look at Montez Ford, people think he's charismatic because he acts like an idiot, right? And that's the problem. You know, like, if you look at Montez Ford, he's good in the ring, but he has a frog splash finisher, and in the match that I'm talking about, Chris Bay did a better frog splash. And that's why I linked it to this guy, because I'm like, oh, well, why do they need Montez Ford, which I think is a bit bigger than this guy, but nevertheless, why do you need Montez Ford when you have like dozens of guys that can do the same things? Presumably, Chris Bay, definitely Chris Bay, because we saw him do it, and Ace Austin could also do these moves just as well, right? So what exactly is it that people like Montez Ford bring to the equation? Why did everyone think that Montez Ford was going to be this main eventer, right? Why does everyone think that Trick Williams is going to be anything special? Why does anyone think that Nathan Frazier is going to be anything special? None of these guys are unique enough, right? Like, you could just fire Nathan Frazier and hire Chris Bay or Ace Austin, and nobody would notice, right? It's like nobody would give a flying fuck. If tomorrow they take Nathan Frazier and Axiom and they just hire Chris Bay and Ace Austin and put Ace Austin in a mask and say he's the new Axiom, and now Axiom is teaming up with Chris Bay instead of Nathan Frazier, nobody would give a shit. Nobody would say, oh my God, I can't believe they got rid of Nathan Frazier. And nobody would say, who the hell is this Chris Bay guy? Nobody would care. You see what I'm saying? That's what watching TNA really got me to realize, right? It's like you have so much of the same thing, like the Rascals. I love the Rascals, you know, I really enjoy them. They're from the Treehouse, which is just, like, it's just such a good concept, right? It's just these 3 idiots, these 3 goofs, right? It's a great concept. But it's like, the underpinnings of the Rascals are like, all three of them are interchangeable, right? There's really, like, I think Zachary Wentz is the best one, but the other two aren't far behind, you know what I mean? Like, they're just a little smaller than him, but like, they're all very athletic guys. So it's like, why do you need three of them, right? One of them can get it done. So that's kind of like where I'm at here with like understanding how wrestling actually works, right? People seem to be under the impression that any kind of tonal shift, right? That like Montez Ford coming out there and just dancing, right? For some reason, his dancing is more charismatic than the dancing of Angelo Dawkins. And like, I will say, he seems more comfortable in that role. Like, I think Montez Ford is more of like an entertainer than an athlete. He's obviously athletic, but I think he's more of an entertainer. Whereas like Angelo Dawkins, I think he's like a collegiate wrestler or something, you know what I mean? So like, he comes from a different world. But the point stands, right? The point stands. It's like, there's nothing these people bring to the table. The best bet for a lot of wrestlers is to be in a tag team and hopefully get over a little bit, right? Hopefully become relevant a little bit. There was a time when like tag teams were amazing, so every tag team got over very well, right? Because they would do shit to get over. Like, and some of it is not the fault of people like, you know, Chris Bay and Ace Austin, right? They're just two like vanilla jobbers who they put in a tag team, right? Like the Hardy Boys were similar, right? They were like two vanilla jobbers for a while that were put in a tag team. But not only did the Hardy Boys eventually become like very good creatives, but the Hardy Boys, especially Jeff Hardy, were doing things that nobody was doing, right? So your options were like, all right, you're gonna see like, I don't know, like Mosh and Thrasher versus Matt and Jeff Hardy, right? Hell, even if you had Edge and Christian and Matt and Jeff Hardy, like they would, like JR would be like, Edge and Christian are high flyers. And it's like, no, they're not. Like all they do is like at most, like they do like a poetry in motion cross body thing, right? They're not high flyers, right? Edge and Christian were not known to be diving off the top ropes. But compared to like the APA, who have never climbed the turnbuckles, of course they're high flyers, right? But nowadays, it's like if you were to compare to like Axiom and Nathan Frazier, or even Ashanti the Adonis and Cedric Alexander to, let's say, the Hardy Boys, right? Of course, Ashanti the Adonis and Cedric Alexander are more high flyers, right? But they're also smaller, right? It's like they also have these other smaller like deficits, because if you look at Matt and Jeff Hardy, who were these like ragdoll type dudes who would just like dive off of shit, they were like 6'2" and 6'1". Yeah, they're like big motherfucks, right? It's like Jeff Hardy looked small because he had to wrestle against Farouk and Bradshaw and The Undertaker. But Jeff Hardy right now would like, he's like bigger than Seth Rollins. You know what I mean? Like, think the standards have dropped significantly. But because the standards have dropped significantly in one regard and have increased in another regard in terms of the athleticism, the question changes, right? Now, more is expected from the wrestlers. So in order to identify someone that's gonna have a good future, someone that is going to get over and might eventually get some sort of push, like, you know, I don't want to say a main event push because that's like pushing it, but, you know, someone like that, someone that could theoretically benefit from long-term booking. There really isn't anyone around. That's why NXT is the fucking disaster that it's been for the last several weeks, right? They're trying to, and several months really, they're trying to like get in with TNA because they've realized, like in my opinion, they've realized that the Performance Center like construct is not a good format. It's just not. You know, like the Performance Center yields people like Trick Williams who are fucking boring. You know, like all this guy has, like he's basically Joe Hendry, right? Like, here's what happened. Trick Williams is a guy with very little personality, let's be honest, right? He's kind of weird looking. You know, he's got like an aesthetic physique, but he has this like weird lankiness to him, right? He's not like as full, let's say, as like a Booker T or a John Cena or even a Benoit. He's not as full, right? He's kind of like skinny for like a big, strong guy. I mean, he's obviously big and strong, but he doesn't have this fullness, right? He's like almost like a Charlie Haas when Charlie Haas debuted. He has that physique, right? Which is like fantastic physique to have, but it's not like, you know, or like even like a Kurt Angle, you know? But it's not like the physique that you kind of want, right? You want like a, you know, like a Eddie Guerrero, like when he came back to face RVD physique. Like he doesn't have that kind of physique, even though he's like a foot taller than Eddie Guerrero. But you know what I mean, right? He's boring, right? He doesn't have anything going for him. He doesn't have fun moves. He's not entertaining. He's not charismatic. There's absolutely nothing there that would indicate that he is main event material or even main roster material, if you ask me. All he has is what all wrestlers have now that are over. A catchy theme song that is easy to sing along to. But guess who else has that? Joe Hendry, right? And now, it's not the battle of who's the better entertainer and who's the better wrestler. It really is just the battle of who has the catchier theme song. And Joe Hendry credit to him, right? I don't know much about him, but he's obviously an intelligent guy because he understood that it is not the time to get over on looks or wrestling ability. It is now the time to get over on sing-along theme songs. So he based his character around the fact that he has a very sing-alongable theme, right? And that's where we are now, right? This is the new metric of getting over. So when I see Chris Bay and Ace Austin, and I compare him to Nathan Frazier, fucking Ashanti Via Adonis, Mustafa Ali, like Dolph Ziggler, all these guys that are boring, you know what I mean? Like, they're just boring ass dudes. Like, if you met Dolph Ziggler, and you spoke to him for 30, 40 minutes, you would run out of things to talk about, and he would start telling you about, like, I don't know, interest rates and, like, you know, what dentist he goes to. It's gonna be like boring ass conversation because they're not cool dudes, right? And Trick Williams is not a cool dude either. You can tell these are just like a bunch of dorks that are also athletic, right? That's all it is. Like, they're not cool, you know? And same thing with, honestly, Carmelo Hayes and fucking Swerve Strickland is like the number one because people are like, this guy's the coolest person ever. No, he isn't. There's nothing cool about him at all. The only thing that's cool about Swerve Strickland is that he tells you he's cool, right? He's like, I'm cool now. Did anyone think he was cool when he was part of Hit Row? Because obviously he thought that was cool, right? He thinks he's like this good rapper. He's shit. He's basically like one of you guys, I forget who it was, but someone said it. He's like, Swerve Strickland is another Seth Rollins. And I think the person meant it as like, to say that like, Swerve is underrated in relation to Seth Rollins. But I said to him, I said, I agree, they're both shit. Yeah, I agree. Swerve Strickland is another Seth Rollins. Exactly the same thing. Neither of them have any charisma. Neither of them are cool. Both of them are good in the ring, but nobody cares. And both of them are in less than ideal shape, right? The fact that this is like the bodies that like Seth Rollins and Swerve Strickland have should be unacceptable in wrestling. Like, the minimum body requirements should be like Chad Gable. That's the minimum, right? Back in the day, it's like if you look at, let's say, Val Venus, which I'm gonna do a video on him soon. Val Venus, if you look at Val Venus's physique, it's like better than like everyone. Like, it's 100 times better than Seth Rollins, 100 times better than Swerve Strickland, better than Cucky. I mean, Cucky's got an acceptable physique, but better than Cucky, better than Cedric Alexander, better than Nathan Frazier, better than, obviously, Bronson Reed, better than almost everybody except for, like, Drew McIntyre. Like, Drew McIntyre is the only guy in wrestling, right, who has, like a imposing physique. You know, and obviously, like, you know, Omos and Braun Strowman, but you know what I mean. Like, he's the only one that has, like, a legit physique. Everybody, and Chad Gable, too. Everybody else is just, honestly, they're out of shape. Like, if we're being 100%, motherfuckers, they're out of shape. You know? You can't present Sami Zayn to me as a legitimate wrestler. And speaking of that, I wanted to say one other thing. One of the matches that I saw involved a guy called Jake something. Now, I've heard of this guy, but he's a big, strong dude, right? He's in pretty decent shape. And I think it was either him or his opponent, which was Mike Santana. That's right, Mike Santana, who, by the way, was looking great. Mike Santana, also known as Santana from the Inner Circle. Mike Santana had gotten himself in shape, and there was a part where Mike Santana threw Jake something and, you know, put him in the corner, and Jake something was sitting on the ground, kind of like in the Bronco Buster position, right? And Mike Santana runs and does a cannonball, but it's like he just blows out, he just jumps, flips, and just blows into Jake something. And it reminded me of like the Kevin Owens cannonball, where Kevin Owens runs, and then he slows down at the very end, and then swings his arms, right? Because that's the only way he can cannonball himself, and does a shitty looking cannonball. And based only on the cannonballs, Mike Santana has a way better cannonball, which they both use as a signature move, than Kevin Owens. Mike Santana is better than Kevin Owens, right? Now, here's where things get tricky, right? We have, like, and this is going to be another video, so I'll be very quick here, but we have a situation, I also have a meeting in 12 minutes, cucks. We have this situation, right? We're saying something like Mike Santana is better than Kevin Owens is going to get you laughed at. People are going to be like, oh, you've lost the plot. This ain't it, Chief. What a horrible take. All these, like, stupid ass, like, little, you know, Gen Z, like, you know, fucking sayings, right? It's a bunch of weird shit, by the way. Gen Z, get it together, you know what I'm saying? Figure out who you are first, you know, before you start telling everybody else they're not cool. So that would be something that people will laugh at you for, just to suggest, for example, that there's a possibility that Mike Santana is better than Kevin Owens. But when you really ask yourself, what the fuck does Kevin Owens do well? Well, we just established that the cannonball, at least as a move, Mike Santana does better. What wrestling moves does Kevin Owens do exceptionally well? None of them. He has boring ass moves. Anyone can do the stunner. Shark Boy could do the stunner, right? The pop-up powerbomb, anyone can do that. Obafemi does it just fine. Probably better than Kevin Owens. And at least, even if it's not better, it's more believable because Obafemi is like 7 inches taller. So it's like, you know, the powerbomb just, you know, is worth more, right? There's nothing that Kevin Owens does well in the ring, right? Then we move on to the mic. He's not good on the mic. I don't know if Santana is good on the mic or not, or if he's better than Kevin Owens, but I know Kevin Owens isn't. He's not good on the mic. You know, they lead you to believe that he is, but he isn't. Here's how I know. When he was tag teaming with Jericho, Jericho did all the promos. There was one time on Raw where they gave it to him, they gave him the mic, and Kevin Owens just botched it completely, and he like pretended to get frustrated. He's like, I don't even know, Chris, take the mic, right? Because he was like, fuck, I've just fucked it all up. And Jericho takes the mic and saves the promo immediately, because Jericho is good on the mic, right? So it's like, what the fuck is it that Kevin Owens brings to the table, right? Just fire his ass. He sucks. And hire Mike Santana. If you need someone to do like 3 moves, hire Mike Santana. At least he's new. You know, at least he's a breath of fresh air. And it's not like Kevin Owens has been established as this legitimate wrestler, right? Kevin Owens sucks. Nobody likes Kevin. Nobody actually gives a shit if Kevin Owens ever wrestles on SmackDown or Raw again, right? So that's what I'm saying. You know, some people get a boost because Triple H likes them and because like he thinks they're gonna get over. Like Kevin Owens is an example. Sami Zayn is an example, right? These people that there's nothing special about them at all, but they're gonna get over because Triple H said so. But the vast majority of people are just not gonna ever be good enough. And they are replaceable. Just like I said, motherfucks. Axiom can be replaced by Chris Bay. Fucking Cedric Alexander can also be replaced by Chris Bay. Every wrestler that's not a main eventer can be replaced by Chris Bay or Mike Santana. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to shit on Chris Bay and Mike Santana. I was actually entertained by both of them. I like them. I'm actually clamoring for them to actually get a chance because they're better than the people that we have around now, cucks. That being said, take care of yourselves and go fuck your mothers.